Stick around as I inspire you with multicolored stamping and 3 card projects featuring 1 kit and 1 color palette. Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley here for Altenew. Thanks for joining me today. Today I am sharing how to create 3 cards with 1 kit and 1 color palette. That's all you need. And today I'm using the Craft Your Life Floral Odyssey kit. I love this big, bold stamp set that's included in the kit. It has some fabulous sentiments as well. Some that are a little different than you may have seen in the past. They're kind of direction and journey oriented, which really ties in to the stencil set as well as the die set that's included in this kit. Now, the stencil set includes 2 sets of stencils, one which makes a kind of floral border and the other which coordinates with this really cool kind of city map overview type situation. And then finally, we have the included die set, which cuts the center out of that floral frame. And you have a couple of compass type images in this die set as well, which are perfect for masculine cards. Now I'll be using the same color palette for all 3 of my cards and this beautiful stamp set. And I'm starting out by mounting several of the stamps in my Stamp Wheel 2.0, and I am going to create a ton of stamped images at once. We're gonna do some multicolor stamping, which is much easier than you may think. And we're gonna create a bunch of images and then take those images and lay them out in a few different card designs. Now, when I lay these out, I'm purposely separating my florals from the greenery because I'm going to want to ink those up in different colorways. And so by separating them just slightly, by keeping all the greenery at the top and all the florals at the bottom, I can easily ink these up in a couple of different colors. So I'm starting out by inking up my greenery in Sweet Leaf, and then the florals at the bottom I am going to ink up in Pink Pearl. Now I'm inking over the entire surface of the florals at this time, and we're going to go in and add a second color here in just a moment. I'll flip my flip plate over and stamp all those images, and then I am going to go in and re-ink these images again using the same colors, so Sweet Leaf at the top and Pink Pearl at the bottom. Clearly, I have sped this up just a bit because I did spend a little bit of time creating all of my images. That's where a big bulk of the creation time came in, but I even had leftovers when I was done with these 3 cards. Now, to add some shading on the edges of these florals, I'm taking my Coral Bliss ink and a mini ink blending brush, and I'm dabbing some of the Coral Bliss ink onto the edge of the florals using the blending brush. Now, the blending brush is your friend because you could go in with kind of a rock and roll technique where you're just inking the edges of the stamps with the ink pad itself, but you tend to end up with a little bit harsher lines. So I went ahead and repeated that process twice, and then I have my first set of florals and greenery completed. So the beauty of the Stamp Wheel 2.0 is I can leave all of these images in place, switch out my paper, and then re-ink in different colors, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm inking up the greenery in Just Green and the florals in Rouge. Now these are really like solid images. So I find that inking and stamping a couple of times gets me the best results. You do, when you're working with a newer stamp set, want to make sure that you're conditioning those, and you can use the conditioning eraser from Altenew to help with that process. Now I'm kind of quickly wiping up my floral stamps so that I can add my secondary color on these. Keep in mind the base is Rouge, and so now I'm using Chamomile, which is a warm yellow, to ink the edges of my florals. And I have to tell you that of all of them, I like this color combo, but it was probably my least favorite of the 3 that I used here. So once I've done that, I'm going to go in again with a second layer in certain areas on these florals and add a little more chamomile. Now for my third set of florals, I'm inking up the florals in chamomile and the greenery in Misty Morning. Now I know that this may be an unexpected color for that greenery, but I really love this Misty Morning color in both the cardstock and the ink, and I think it is so fresh for summer. Again, I'm repeating that process with chamomile on those florals. I'm going to get a good coverage of those. And once I'm happy with that, I'll bring in Coral Bliss and start inking the edges of these floral stamps using my mini ink blending brush again. Now, you'll notice that on the smaller florals at the top, I'm not being careful to ink like the entire edge. I'm just kind of going in here and there. And I'm not making sure that I'm re-inking the exact same areas on each of these florals. I'm just working to build the color. Now I have the Floral Odyssey die add-on set. This is not included in the kit, but it is available as an add-on, and it includes all the outline dies for the florals as well as the sentiments, and I think it really does expand this kit in a new way. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to die cut all of the images that I've just stamped. I'm lining up the coordinating dies, running that through my die cut machine, and I am going to end up with a ton of images that I can then easily lay out into layouts and create. I love the color palette that I've chosen today. It's very fresh and summery, and it's inspired by a recent project that I created for my own personal YouTube channel where I just picked out a summer color palette and started creating. So here's a look at all of those images. So beautiful. The colors look so wonderful together, and it's perfect for summer. Now for all of my layouts, I'm kind of creating like these corner swags or these cornered elements. I'm starting out with a lower left-hand corner, and you're gonna see me mix up the greenery colors that I'm using. I'm mixing the florals with different colors of florals, making sure that I kind of spread my color out throughout the arrangement. So you'll see some yellow at the top, some yellow at the bottom, kind of bringing that all together and mixing up. I just really want to have good color distribution. Now, once I have all of these individual elements laid out, I'm going to take some satin masking tape. I'm going to deactivate it slightly by placing it onto my skin before I place it over my stamped images. Keep in mind that if your ink is not completely dry and you're putting an adhesive tape, even if it's a low tack tape, over these images, you can definitely rip the paper as you're removing that low tack tape like the satin masking tape. So you want to make sure these images are good and dry. And yes, dye ink still does need a little bit of time to dry. And you want to make sure that you kind of deactivate it slightly. Now you'll see me flip this entire image over, add some foam adhesive to the back and a little bit of liquid glue to connect all these pieces. And now I have a single piece that I can move and kind of experiment with. I went back and forth on whether to put this on the Misty Morning cardstock or to put it on white cardstock. I ended up with white, just a fresh color palette for summer and something super bright. It feels slightly more spring or winter if you put it on that Misty Morning because it's got a lot of coolness. Now I did take a sentiment from that Floral Odyssey stamp set and stamped it onto a strip of Misty Morning cardstock using the Cloudy Sky ink. And the Cloudy Sky is just one step darker than the Misty Morning. So now I have my elements ready to go, ready to place on my card. And I have removed the foam adhesive backer and placed it onto an A2 size card front. And now I'm adding my sentiment strip with a little bit of foam. But we all know that this is a touch of sparkle, and so we need that little bit of sparkle. And in order to do that, I'm just bringing in the clear iridescent stellar sequins. I'm using some liquid glue and my perfect picker tool to just sprinkle those throughout my design and add them in as some floral centers as well. And I think this is absolutely beautiful. The dimension makes all the difference on this card because it is so simple, but that little bit of added dimension with the Instant Dimension foam tape really makes this card stand out. Now I want to create another element that kind of floats in the center of the card. So I'm starting out with a scrap piece of white cardstock that's fitted down right into the center of this card. And I'm going to start placing elements onto this cardstock using some sticky tape, but I don't want them to adhere permanently. So I'm just temporarily tacking them down with just a little bit of this tape because eventually we're going to trim these down to fit that little panel of cardstock completely. And we're going to create kind of this floating die cut element in the center of the card. Once I have all of those placed temporarily onto the cardstock, I'm going to add that satin masking tape. I'm just reusing the tape that I used before. And once I have that position, I'm going to take this panel, flip it over, and trim all of the excess of those die cuts that's hanging off of this panel of cardstock. This is going to give me a really clean element that will eventually, even though they're singular die cuts right now, that will eventually become one element. Once I have those trimmed down, I'm going to carefully remove all of the die cuts from that panel. And there's one that kind of stuck behind, but it's okay. We're going to add that on separately in just a bit. And I'm going to add foam adhesive on the back of all of these. I like to add the foam adhesive kind of overlapping multiple elements so that it keeps those elements tied together. It's like creating a bridge from one die cut to the other. So I use lots of small pieces of foam adhesive to do this, but again, the dimension on this card, because it is so clean and simple, is what's going to make all the difference in the world. Once those are all connected, then I can flip this back over and remove that satin masking tape. That little corner piece just was wanting to be a problem, but that's okay. We can sneak that in easily enough. And you can see I am carefully removing the satin masking tape. I don't want to rip anything. Now I have this beautiful clean edged design, but it's created with die cuts. Yes, you could stamp this, but I think it's so much more fun to do this in a dimensional way with the individual die cuts. I've removed all the backer from the foam adhesive, placed that in the center of an A2 size card, and then I popped up another floral right in the center of that with extra foam adhesive. I stamped a sentiment from that Floral Odyssey stamp set onto a strip of Misty Morning cardstock, and I'm positioning it right over the top of that element that we've created in the center of the card. I'm using, again, some foam adhesive to add a little dimension to this. And once I get that placed, I'm going to take my scissors and trim that down to where it stays within the confines of that matte area that we created on the card. Of course, we needed a little bit of sparkle, so I added some more of those clear iridescent stellar sequins to finish off this card project, and I think this is such a fun way to use individual die cuts. You can see that bit of dimension, which just really makes this come alive, and you can see the areas between the die cuts that are kind of, I don't know, see-through to the base of the card, which I think is a lot of fun. Now for my third and final card, I'm going to do this in a different way. I'm arranging my elements and then picking them up one piece at a time and kind of positioning them onto my card base. All of the greenery pieces on this card will be added with some liquid glue or some tape runner adhesive, and the floral elements will be added with some instant dimension foam tape, so it has varying levels of dimension. I'm working my way through, placing all of those images, and then trimming off the excess that's hanging over the edge of my card base. Now I decided it needed a little more yellow in this lower corner, so I'm adding it temporarily again with some sticky tape adhesive, and then I'm going to pull that up and add some foam adhesive on the back and then place it permanently onto my card front. Now for the sentiment, again, I'm using that Floral Odyssey stamp set because I wanted to stick within the kit. And I've got this beautiful sentiment. I'm using my stamp wheel to stamp it directly onto my card front. These cards all have just a single layer of the card base and then the die cuts on top. So not technically one layer, but pretty one layer when it comes to Carissa Wiley cards. I've inked that up in Cloudy Sky ink and stamped that onto my card front. Added some more of those clear iridescent sequins to draw the eye and add a touch of sparkle, and that finishes off my third card, all created using the Floral Odyssey Craft Your Life kit. And I didn't really even touch the die set that's included with this kit or the embossing folder or the stencil set. I was just really having fun with some stamping techniques today. When you grab a kit like this and you pick a color palette, you really can get a lot of mileage, a lot of projects out of your crafting time because you're not switching between multiple color palettes or multiple products. And I really find this a great way to save time when I'm crafting. And now I have 3 beautiful card projects to add to my stash. Now, as always, I will have links to the featured products used in these projects in the description at YouTube. So if you're looking for something in particular, be sure you check there, or you can head on over to the coordinating blog post. I'll have that linked in the YouTube description below as well. Over there, you're going to find more information, more still shots, and a complete list of supplies. As always, I want to say thanks so much for stopping by and hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed joining me on this crafty session and creating 3 cards with 1 kit and 1 color palette. I hope I've inspired you to try some multicolored stamping the next time that you are grabbing your supplies and getting crafty. If you've enjoyed these projects and you've enjoyed this video, I would love for you to give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel and turn on the notifications so you don't miss any of the paper crafting and card making video tutorials shared here. Thanks again for joining me today. I'm Carissa Wiley here for Altenew, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.
Wait, we have more where that came from. If you're after fabulous card making tutorials, you are definitely in the right spot. Our amazing design team create and upload fabulous video tutorials right to this YouTube channel. If you don't want to miss another amazing crafting tutorial, don't forget to subscribe and click that fun red button that you can see. Let's become paper crafting experts together.